Hey, hi, and hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Cynthia and I love to crochet. For those of you who have been following me on Instagram, you know all about this new crochet series that I have just been dying to get on YouTube. I have been doing my research and working on how to get it out onto a series. So today is episode number 1, and this is what I wish I knew before I learned to crochet. Number 1, and it is basically just a crochet 101. I'm not actually going to do any sort of tutorial per se with hook and yarn. This is more just information that I wish somebody had told me before I started. So there are so many reasons that I think crochet is a great hobby to get into. It definitely took me a while to get back into it. I learned when I was 8 years old with my mom and learning how to make a granny square. And I just kind of put it down because I didn't know how to read patterns. I kind of was a little lost in the beginning, so I just let it go. Yay, I could make a granny square, but that's all I could do. It wasn't until years later that I picked up the hook again and I read Crochet for Dummies. Honestly, that book was amazing. I loved it. It helped me really understand crochet more than my mom could teach me. And I mean, I'm from the era where YouTube didn't exist when I was younger. So I had to learn everything by watching other people crocheting or reading a book, or honestly, just trial and error and seeing what worked and what didn't. So there are many, many reasons why I think you should begin crochet, and here's just a few. 1, it becomes a type of meditation and can be very relaxing and calming, especially after a long day at work or at school. 2, it travels very well. You can crochet anywhere at any time with only a few supplies. Number 3, it's a great form of physical therapy for those suffering from arthritis. The movements during crochet can keep your joints from stiffening. Number 4, it's a suitable craft for all ages. Like I said, when I started, I was 8. My daughter is 6 and she wants to start, but I've also had people anywhere between the ages of like 30 to 70 asking and wondering how they can start crochet. So I told them, follow me on YouTube and I will help you. And finally, there is a wide variety of patterns to follow, so you can literally make anything and everything your heart wants. Whether it be amigurumi or flowers, apparel, housewares, the sky is the limit, and it really is all limited on your ability to crochet. Before you start to crochet, there are a few tools that I do suggest you have on you. If you are just starting from the very, very beginning, a hook and yarn, perfect. That's really all you need to get started with crochet. But if you are interested in advancing your skills or making a little bit more complicated patterns, then there are a few more things that I think you should grab. Number 1, make sure you're grabbing your crochet hooks. I definitely suggest getting an array of crochet hook sizes because depending on what it is you're making, you might need a larger or a smaller hook. Number 2, stitch markers. For some reason, stitch markers seem to be a controversial thing in the crochet world, but honestly, I never used them when I was little and I regret it. I wish somebody had said, hey, use a stitch marker. Your world and your crochet projects will thank you, because I don't know how many times I had to frog a project because I lost count. I am very easily distracted, so I love having that little stitch marker so that I don't have to frog the entire project and start from scratch. It's also great when you are changing a pattern or like a stitch count, so that way you know when to change the stitch and you don't really have to count. It is a lifesaver, and I definitely suggest using stitch markers. You don't necessarily need to buy them. You can use a piece of yarn, you can use a bobby pin, you can use a paper clip. Like, there are so many things that you can use that you probably have laying around your house right now as a stitch marker. But if you want to buy them, you can buy them really cheap. You can buy them really expensive. You can make your own. Sky's the limit. If you plan on making any kind of amigurumi projects, or if you are making apparel, a darting or a yarn needle will definitely make your life a whole lot easier when you need to sew on pieces or weave in ends. Scissors, this is pretty much a given. You need something to cut your yarn, and please don't use your teeth. Tape measure. If you are doing apparel, I would definitely suggest getting a tape measure so that way you can make sure that your gauges are the proper size. Whether it be a tape measure or a ruler, you just need something to measure your swatch of yarn. And lastly, you need yarn. So if you walk into Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joann's or any of these yarn stores, you are going to get overwhelmed by the amount of yarn that you see. If you are a beginner, I definitely think it's the best to choose a cheaper acrylic yarn. I know some people will disagree with me on that, but acrylic yarn is basically a yarn that has plastic. And so it keeps its shape really well. You are able to see individual stitches really well. You can learn how to fix your tension. It's just a great beginner yarn. And like I said, it's cheap. You can get it at the dollar store. It's part of like the cheaper section of all these stores. And then eventually, when you are feeling brave and want to venture into other yarns, chenille yarn, plush yarn, those yarns are huge right now, especially for making amigurumi. A lot of people like to use cotton yarn. I'm not a huge fan. I find the fibers all come apart and it's hard. Like, I just don't like it. There's wool, like, I keep saying this, but honestly, guys, sky is the limit when it comes to crochet. The amount of tools and yarn that are available to you is insane, and you can make anything, literally anything. Another great thing to learn before starting crochet, especially if you are making apparel like sweaters, hats, bags, socks, all those things like that, is learning how to sew. Yes, I understand this is another skill that you're going to have to learn, but it just depends on how advanced you want to get with your crochet. Sewing is definitely a part of it, and it is something that you should learn. Here are my top 4 sewing stitches that I think you guys should learn. Number 1, the whip stitch. Number 2, the blanket stitch. Number 3, the back stitch. And number 4, the mattress stitch. If you are making blankets, that mattress stitch will help you hide all these seams with your granny square, and your blanket is going to look absolutely flawless. I will be making a video in the future on these 4 different ways of sewing, but I am sure there's 1,000,001 videos currently on YouTube, so by all means go and check them out and learn how to sew. All right, so you've got your tools, you know how to sew, you know what you're in for. Now we're going to grab our very first pattern. Patterns can be very overwhelming, and there are different types of patterns depending on who makes them. A lot of them have different ways of grouping stitches together. They have different abbreviations, whether they came from the UK or the US, but I'm going to be teaching you guys the US versions. The UK versions, I am sure there are many other well-versed crocheters out there that can teach you those terms. So when you are beginning in a beginner's pattern, here's a few abbreviations that you're probably going to come across. Number 1, MR or MC. So this stands for magic ring or magic circle. This is a very popular way of starting most amigurumi projects, and it just keeps you from having a little hole at the top or bottom of your project. CH stands for chain. SC stands for single crochet. HDC is half double crochet. DC is double crochet. TR, treble crochet. SLST stands for slip stitch. Depending on the crocheter who created the pattern, they will either use the abbreviation or actually say slip stitch in the pattern. DEC stands for decrease, and INC stands for increase. These are very popular that you will see, especially when doing amigurumi or doing like hats. All right, so now we know some abbreviations. We have all the tools we need. We have our very first pattern. What do we do now? Practice. And I'm not a huge fan of saying practice makes perfect, because you will never be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. That's impossible. But you will definitely get better, and you will advance a lot faster if you continue to practice. So the best thing I think for practicing, especially for beginners, is learning how to crochet in the round. So grab a very beginner easy amigurumi project and make a little duck or like a fish. Just make something that's going to get you practicing in the round, because practicing in the round is going to teach you how to increase and decrease. It'll also teach you how to keep track of your stitches and how to use a stitch marker. When I first learned, I learned granny squares, and the only thing I knew how to do was a double crochet and skipping a couple chains. So even though the granny square is a great place to start for beginners, it's not necessarily teaching you the skills that you need to continue with this craft and be awesome at it. And I know that you guys will get awesome at it. So I hope that this was a very informative video, and that you guys are pumped and excited for this series and are ready to start your beginning journey with crochet. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe, leave me a comment on the things that you want to see in the next upcoming videos. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know your skill level. I'm always curious to know what my subscribers are up to. So yeah, feel free to leave me any kind of comments and I'll be sure to either create a video depending on what it is that you want to learn, or I will answer you guys in the comments below. You can also be sure to follow me on my Instagram at the Avalon Rose Crochet. I do have some free patterns on there right now for Valentine's Day, and you can see all of my work. So I hope you guys love to crochet as much as I do, because it is so much fun and it'll get addicting and you will not be able to control your yarn stash. Bye.